Have studied and are continuing to study the SBI-net deployments. Our most recent reports have indicated that Project 28 has met with some success, but some expectations have certainly not been met. There is a scaled-down version of SBI-net that is being tested now in Playas, New Mexico, for deployment into Tucson early next year for further testing. And we talk about a 30% goal at the ports of entry. The SBI-net goal is 70%, so it's still not 100%. And maybe this indicates that nothing in and of itself is going to do the job 100%. But SBI-net, I have to see it before I say it's going to work, because it hasn't worked to spec yet.
As far as continuing the SBI-net, one of the things we're looking for that is heightened situational awareness. Right now, we don't have eyes and ears all up and down the border. That will give us a higher level of situational awareness. There's not a single silver bullet for border security. It's going to take several tools, and because of the operating environment, the different training, the different aspects of the border, it's going to take different tools to do that. And SBI-net is one of those. Checkpoints are yet another. And we have worked closely with the Arizona Department of Transportation. We get a lot of support from them, but there are some public safety guidelines and rules that they're very strict with, and we understand why, because when it comes to the motor, the safety of our motoring folks. So we'll continue working with them.
Good morning. I'm Colonel Richard Toy. I live in Tupac. I think we've discussed at some length the impact on our community of the people going around through the community. And there's also an impact that visitors seem not to be as plentiful as they once were, and many attribute that to this hassle factor, if you will, of the checkpoint. Representative Gifford, I wonder if you would be willing to make a pledge to us today, first of all, to use your office to try to get whatever federal funding our law enforcement officers down in Santa Cruz County might need to better police our town with regard to the people that are coming through that we know are there, although we may not be able to demonstrate relationships. And then secondly, would you also pledge to help us work with the Border Patrol to try to reduce the hassle factor for legal visitors and friends of ours coming down from the north on tour buses and otherwise, so that the Border Patrol checkpoint does not become the burden and the barrier that it seems to have become. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Yes and yes. In terms of more federal resources for law enforcement, I have effectively argued and been able to deliver on hundreds of millions of dollars of increase in fundings for the SCAT program. That's the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, which is the reimbursement for our local law enforcement. We know that they continue to be underfunded and non-reimbursed because of the disproportionate effects that we have here and the federal government's simple inability to deal with this problem. So I'm very glad to, and this isn't just me alone, lots of members of the House and Senate have worked and argued successfully. We're still only getting anywhere from 10 to 15% of the reimbursement, not nearly the costs that are incurred along the border areas, but it's certainly a lot better than not receiving anything. Aside along that is the Section 1011 funding, which I have sponsored, and I've worked with members of the Senate as well, which is the reimbursement for our local hospitals and healthcare providers, again, because we're disproportionately impacted with illegal immigrants. In terms of the hassle factor, absolutely. As long as you continue to have me as your representative, this is a very, very local community. And you let us know, you let Ron know, you let the Border Patrol know whenever there's a problem. And figuring out how best to secure our border to deal as we move forward with our immigration and our enforcement plans is something that we will obviously work to make sure that folks are expedited and accommodated. So you have my pledge that I will work with you on both of those areas. Thanks, Colonel. Thanks for your service. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time left. I pulled some of these pages aside, not because you're disregarded, but many of these people quoted that they just like to present your comments in writing only. So we have Bethra up, then we're going to hear from John Russell and Jim Green. Yes, please.
In the spirit of accountability, my name is Beth Yup. And my question was, basically, I heard a lot of talk about the future and what was going to be needed in the future, and also about structures, very permanent structures. Can anyone address how immigration reform has been factored into any of this?
Well, I'll just touch on comprehensive immigration reform. I was one of the 24 members of Congress invited to the White House, along with Senator McCain and Kyle. Actually, it was the three of us from Arizona invited to work with the president. And Janet Napolitano, the Director of Homeland Security, has been asked to head up the efforts to work on legislation that we could actually get passed. Unfortunately, the attempts failed in the Senate a couple of years ago, but this is a priority of the president. You know personally it's a strong priority of mine to accomplish this. We believe that if we do pass a comprehensive immigration bill, we'll be able to take a lot of the economic traffic off of the border that are crossing illegally, make sure that people come in legally and lawfully and then return back to their home countries. That being said, it is a very divisive, difficult issue. You know, during all of these healthcare meetings that we've had, some of the loudest applause lines were for individuals speaking out strongly against illegal immigration. It's something that is it's a very emotional issue for our community. I think it's the right thing to do, and I'm going to continue to fight for comprehensive immigration reform, but we can't bank on it. I mean, we have these problems have been going on for a very long period of time. And the work that we're doing today, I believe, even with comprehensive reform, there's still going to be illegal drug traffickers, there's still going to be illegal human traffickers and people trying to get into our country illegally. Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, Jim Green. I operate the Inn at San Ignacio here in Green Valley, and with respect for time, I'd just like to talk about the tourism aspects, if I would. But special thanks to Congresswoman Giffords, the Border Patrol, and the sorry about that. The question I have from a tourism standpoint, well, first off, really briefly, I operate the Inn at San Ignacio Condo Hotel near KM 56. A lot of my guests, what used to be my #1 tourist destination was Tubac, and it isn't anywhere close now, not at all. Okay, so my question is, were any of the businesses owners of Tubac, were they contacted to do a study and a report? Now, also, it's important to know that I talk to my guests at the hotel, and my staff does too. I said, well, were the Border Patrol mean to you? Did they not like you? Oh, no, they're very professional, very good, very businesslike. But there it is. My guests don't know that it's safe to go to Tubac. My guests don't know that it's safe to go to Nogales. My guests don't know that. Many publications, national publications, have been written. Green Valley, unfortunately, has gone from first to worst in many categories as a result of that. And I don't blame the Border Patrol. They're just doing their jobs, and they do a great job. I've seen them jump over my neighbor's backyard. But the question, honest to God, I have, and they do a tremendous job, and I don't want them attacked. But my statement is, and it won't change, this needs to be done at the border or as close to the border as humanly possible. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. When we came to Tucson, one of the first trips here, we held a town hall meeting that I'm pretty sure you attended. And that was to collect, a first round of all of the concerns. And if you remember, we split it up into business concerns, crime concerns, etc. And that helped us kind of start being able to do the research. And from there, to supplement the qualitative type complaints we heard, we searched for quantitative data to support that. And in the end, to be able to get data as fine-tuned as a zip code or a specific lodging address is not available within a reliable data set for us to report. And so what we ended up having to report was county level lodging, revenue per available room type statistics, but again at the county level. So we did look into it. We tried our best to come up with a real fine-tuned statistic to report on, but the county level was the best we could do.
At the ports of entry, the federal goal is to detect and apprehend 30% of major illegal activity. And this shows the need for a 3-tiered strategy.